with Mr. Gilbert Woodruff, who is a retired farmer and iron worker from the Lyon County section between the rivers. Mr. Woodruff has lived for many years in this section and has very many interesting stories to tell about it for the Kentucky Bicentennial Oral History Project. This is Barbara Searles. We're doing the interview in Mr. Woodruff's home, and it's on October the 19th, 1977. Mr. Woodruff, I'd like for you to tell me something about your childhood and about the way people lived back in the days.
They lived like that. I don't know how long they had that custom of living, but it was going when I come along. They all lived at home, raised everything they had to have, and done without that they didn't raise. The biggest part of them did.
What did you have many clothes in those days, or did what did
usually had overalls, and sometimes we'd get 2 pairs of shoes a year. It had to be, and summertime we went barefoot.
Well, did you go to school? Did there was
not too much. I didn't care anything about schooling for one thing, and I had to work all the time for another thing.
You worked when you were just a child, then?
At an early age I started, at 6 years old.
What kind of work did you do?
Farm work, disking, hiring, dragging.
Did your sisters go to school, or they help also?
Not very much. They was working too. Back then you didn't have the showing that you got now in a way. And in a way you had a better showing. No, everybody back then was on about the same equal. And everybody worked through the rush and tobacco time, housing time, and sorghum making time. The kids all stayed at home. And they all got up in the morning, and every one of them started doing something other. And they worked all day. Of course, after the rush was over, they'd go back to school. They only had a 5-month school then.
Just during the winter time?
We'd start in July and get out before Christmas or before.
What kind of school was it, or what did you?
Just a little common school. I think went up to the 8th grade, I believe.
Do you have desks like they have nowadays?
No. You had a desk. Well, it was 2 set together. And you had a desk that you locked of a night by letting the portrait down. Next morning you could take your pencil, stick it through a hole and lock it. Had a little ink well in it. Had no ballpoint pens. And they had a pencil. It was we got them for a penny a piece or 6 for a nickel. Lead in them was hard as a nail. And that's what we used.
Was the teacher very hard on you? Did they expect a lot of?
Some of them was.
They didn't hesitate to paddle you then if you didn't?
No, it seemed like they liked that pretty good.
Well, how far did the school, to the 8th grade? Did he go to the 8th grade?
I didn't go.
But
I didn't get it past the 3rd grade. But back then, when you went to school and turned the page over, you knew what was on that page before you turned it over. You earned your grades back then, and they give them to you now.
When did you marry? Did you leave home before you married, or
I left home first. I didn't marry till I was 33.
Left home, and what kind of work did you go into?
Construction work all over the country. Jobs back then wasn't as big as they are now, and they wasn't as close together as they are now. You couldn't make enough on a job to hold up and get anything ahead. I'd use the hobo from one job to the other.
You didn't work from just one company then? You travel around?
Well, sometime I'd get with the company and foreign for a while, but a lot of times they seem like they get it in their head they own you, and you're better off to dodge here and around about. Work with a lot of different outfits.
You work with American Bridge more than anybody else, didn't you? As much more.
I worked a lot with Bethlehem and Beasley, American Bridge, McGraw, and I worked a lot with DuPont, St. Louis Structural. I worked a lot of outfits. Whoever had the overtime, that was about the one I called me. Right, I'd go from one to, I'd hunt the overtime job. And there was an outfit out in Indianapolis, the name of Pentecost, Sam Pentecost. One man owned it. And I worked at Pentecost a lot.
What did, times were hard, I understand, between the lakes, and what did a lot of people do for a living?
Oh, they farmed, raised tobacco, raised cattle, hogs, sheep, goats, and living expense wasn't nothing like it is now. The taxes wasn't too much. And it didn't take as much to get by, because the people raised so much of the stuff.
Well, we've all read about the moonshine making between the lakes. Would you tell? Did you know anything about that? Or
I've been around where a little of it's been made.
Well, just how do you go about making moonshine?
You got it to learn. Nobody can tell you about it. You've got to learn by experience.
What's it made out of?
Oh, different things. Some makes corn whiskey, some sugar whiskey, some makes use rye, wheat bran. Just first one thing another. Anything's got an alcohol about to make whiskey.
And they didn't all have the regular, the same kind of stills as we see nowadays in the museums and all that. Did they make their own stills, or did they?
Well, they had people on in that part of the country that was good skilled workmen. I know of them there could make the stills better than any sheet and metal shop you can go in. You know one of them too. They could make them perfect. There's a man in that country that couldn't sign his check. No education at all. That'd make you the prettiest crooked you ever laid your eyes on. And he could make one that hold as much as you wanted to. And that's all they done for a living.
Use a blowtorch, a pair of 10 snips, and a pair of 25 left bars with 3 nails sorted on to crimp with.
Wouldn't have a wrinkle in it. It wouldn't have a pinhole in it. And he made his living making it. He was the best there was there. And all the sheet and metal workers in the surrounding towns tried to hire him. Wouldn't hire him.
He took pride in his job then, what he was doing there.
He was the best.
Well, I guess then every person who used the stills had their own recipes. Did they make up their own recipes, or were they handed down?
That was the only thing you could do. That was just to put up your stuff and put it in barrels, put water to it. Some used yeast. Some could make yeast. And they could stay there, just fermented. Then it was all cooked off on practically the same distillate.
So it's sort of a skill that's handed down from father to son, or?
No, the biggest part of them all chopped them up. They had the units to make.
I know, but how to make it, you know, the method how you went about making it. Was the revenuers pretty common over there?
They were common. For a while, of course, they wasn't as rough as you might imagine. They know the shape of people, if they know what they had to do for a living. And they got lots of breaks on that account. Some moonshiners would get jealous and turn another in. The biggest part of the people turned in by moonshiners. You'd get a little better sale than the other man had. Well, he won't get you out of business, he put law on you. And sometimes that cause him to get shot or cause him to get burnt out and have to leave or something like that.
So a lot of people got away with it without ever getting caught, or did they? Most of them get caught.
There's one of them I can tell you about got away without getting caught. That's me.
Do you attribute that to luck, or you're just?
Oh, there's some luck attached to it, and there's some management attached to it too. When I was working around one, I never taken a drop of nothing. Never touched a drop of whiskey. And I always went as near barefooted and as near naked as I could. And I never let no man slip up on me. And a man pulled in behind me to catch me. He just had a hard way to go. I could run just like a dog. And I practiced on it.
Did you ever have any near escapes, or?
It's a pretty close call.
Did you have people watching for you, or?
No, watching. So you can't depend on people watching for you. They'll get drunk, get dizzy, or headed, or something. I'll go to sleep. And I always watch for myself. I'd rather rest my eyes other than that.
Well, they didn't have phones in those days, and so.
I don't guess there's a phone in that old country at that time. If there was, it's just these little ringing type phones. It calls my house, yours, or over there. Of course, the phone wouldn't do too much good because they never know when it's coming in. You just had to be watching at all times.
Were you ever warned by people that told you that there were revenuers around?
Yeah.
Maybe
A
neighbors?
lot of times whenever the law would be in, listen to tear it over the hill, they'd go over and tell them the law was in, they'd go tell that, and it wasn't a little while, there's no rating.
What would you do in those cases? I mean, you just try to hide
throw
your steel?
Throw a bucket of water under it and hit the woods.
What would they do if they found the steel?
Chop them up,
Chop 'em up.
destroy them.
So that would just delay you enough that you would have to get another made?
Yeah, or repair that one. I've seen them repaired. Well, it wasn't tore up too bad, they could repair it. Hillman Ferry. Well, I had a good ferryman. And he had a light on his boat. He didn't have to holler or blow his horn. And one go down on an automobile and sit there and look. And whenever the law drove in the boat on that side of the corner, he'd turn on, start and turn his light on. Well then, by the time they got over there and landed, he'd take his time. Sometimes break down. Sort of right smart piece. But whenever they got, it didn't take that fellow but a few minutes till everybody in the country knows the law was in. They had that.
So you sort of had it worked out with the ferryman.
The man on the ferry, well, he was a good guy, but he was having a hard time getting by too.
That's cutting into his business when that law tore them outfits up. You were getting a lot of whiskey all across that
Yeah,
ferry.
they getting most.
Who did you sell to? Was it local people, or was?
Oh, biggest part of them. You couldn't sell no whiskey local. Everybody
well,
else.
everybody else made it too.
It all went out to different places. No, that is give up to be the moonshining capital of the nation.
I believe I heard something about maybe, was it Al Capone or somebody that had a...
Has got whiskey out of here.
Used to send a plane down or
some trucks.
Trucks from Chicago and picked it up. Was there people that made it just especially for him, or did
Anybody.
just anybody? He buy it from anybody?
Well, some of them had regular customers that would come to their house every week, or they could haul to them every week. And some of them would make till they got everything they had to pull and get somebody to come get all of it.
So you usually didn't have much trouble selling what you made?
No, it all was cheap. And you had to make better whiskey then than they've got today. for itself. For you come in, this wasn't no count, you go right down there and he had some. This is the count. Then go down to the next house, he had it. And you just pick your whiskey.
Sell it in quart jars or
Barrel, kegs, barrels.
any way you.
A lot of times they'd jug it out. Some just sold with a keg, some with a barrel.
Then later they got using 5-gallon cans, or that's smart, I think.
They didn't do much canning out of here. Canning was mostly up in that country where they had alcohol. They handled alcohol in cans. Some places in Illinois that they just sold cut alcohol all the time. Get 200 proof alcohol and put half of the water, well that had 100 proof whiskey.
Mr. Woodruff, I understand that you like to go hunting a lot, and maybe you went hunting for turkeys, wild turkeys. Do you have any interesting stories to tell about that?
Oh, not particularly. But when I hunted anything that had hair or feathers on it. Anything passed me with hair on it, it had to go to the house. And turkey feathers, they had to go to the house.
Did you go after one thing, or just take anything came along?
Come by me. Anything I'd eat. Yeah, I've killed a whole lot of turkeys, and I've killed some awful old turkeys. I've killed them with spurs just to look like glassy looking.
Was those turkeys good to eat?
Oh, Lord, this is good to eat.
How do you go about cooking turkeys? Do you remember?
Well, my wife always staked the breast. Turn the anaconda across the breast and steak it cut it off like steak and beat it. And fry that, and then taking the bony part and bake that with dressing.
And that got real tender that way? You could cook it with onions and...
Just whatever, just anything you'll get to put in that dressing.
What's the longest beard on a turkey that you remember? What is the longest beard you ever killed with a turkey?
11 inches. But I killed one turkey one night that had 2 10-inch beards.
Very unusual.
It grew up about that far. About that far apart. 10-inch beards. And we used to heat, and the woman, she used to like fans. A lot of people didn't have electric fans then. And she'd use a turkey wing fan. Get them and spread them out flat and take hot irons and put on them. Back in the meat part of them.
And that makes them stay spread out?
Yeah. And she'd cook that meat on there, them hot irons. It never was sour at all. Mouse would swap his life to eat on that for just a little bit. She'd used to put them in, raise up a chair, put them on that chair, put the cushion back down, sit on them. No, I had one woman that I never seen cook a tough squirrel or a tough turkey either. She never stewed a tough squirrel when she was over a tough squirrel, never stewed that. Fried it.
She just knew how to.
I don't know how she managed it, but she never. I never killed a tough turkey. A tough squirrel when we lived together.
What time do you go hunting for turkeys? Every night when they go?
Best time's moonlight. Moonlight night's my choice. When it's raining, if I could get it to raining, we'll have a moon.
Did you usually sort of sight during the daytime to find out where you might
A lot
think?
of times go out of evening. On the high hill, listen to roost. But back in that time, turkeys was so thick, you could find them nearly anywhere. When you'd get from from 10 to 15 a drove. And the woods are plumb full of them. I've seen them turn them leaves every day hunting food. Time this bunch get out of the way, here'll come another bunch through there, some other way.
Were there a lot of deer in those days, or was that just something that's added later?
From about 19 and 20 on, there was deers, several deers. See, they just stopped that in 1917 or 18.
18, I believe.
And after they got started, well, they just accumulated fast.
So back when you were a boy, what was the main thing that you liked to hunt for in those days?
Rabbit and squirrel and
Rabbits.
possum. That's the only way that I got into Christmas money was hunting possum.
And that was to eat. Possum.
I didn't eat them much. My daddy ate them. He liked them. But I got the hides.
Oh, for the hides. Did you do your own curing of the hides? How did you?
We'll skin them. We might take boards. Put a board off, the shape, about the shape you want your hide, stretch it over that and let it dry.
And then who bought those hides?
They had some local buyers around through the country. Some shipped them to Funston and S.C. Taylor. Sears and Roebuck went to buy them. They had several, there's lots of fur companies. Biggest part of them was in St. Louis. Other than Sears and Roebuck, they bought it in the Chicago store for a long time, but after they set up a place in Memphis, well, us people here had to send them to Memphis for closer was to Chicago.
Did you ever do any trapping?
Not no trapping. I never was no trapper. Always just hunted. Had a pretty good dog. Sometimes I'd headlight. Sometimes, well, wouldn't hunt with a dog. A lot of times I'd headlight and find stuff that he wouldn't find.
What did they do with those hides?
Make furs for coats.
Out of the possum furs?
Well, you see, they'd dye 'em and make anything out of them they wanted to. There's been a many little possums sold for a mink. They just dyed it, made anything out of them they wanted to.
I see.
Well, I seen one woman up there, I guess you know where Henry Tiller's was, that made a cap out of a possum hide.
Yeah, I used to know him, Gilbert way.
Yeah, she wore where she went. A lot of them old timers would take a coon hide and make a cap out of it.
Well, did they coon hunt in those days like they do now?
No, there wasn't as many coons as there is now. Now, the woods full of possums, but there wasn't, you wouldn't catch very many coons those seasons.
Did you have quail in those days? Or
Hmm?
Did you have quail? Did you hunt them?
Oh, they had a oversupply of quails back then. 20 quails to one today. I guess there's 20 then to one today.
I imagine so. And he was big quail. He wasn't any
The
little
northern,
quail.
northern bob whites. But since the people left out of that country over there, the bobcats, foxes, and hawks, it's eat the quails up. You can't hardly go over and find a quail on at all. If you do, it ain't much bigger than a sparrow, and just a wild.
Did you have fences and did you keep your cattle in fences in those
you
days?
you had to do your own fencing. They had an outside range, and you fenced your place, and they had acres and acres and miles of outside range for cattle and hogs.
But didn't have the stock laws we have nowadays.
No, we had an open range.
So
Open range in the 3rd District of Lyon County, and that district of Trigg County, Stearard County, all that bunch between the rivers was open range. They had acres and acres and miles of woods there and old fields. Made a good cattle range, hog range. I've seen lots of people kill the meat out of the woods. And back then, people used to kill a beef. Well, had to eat it in about a couple of days. Of course, maybe you'd kill one and I'd boil a quarter, and they'd boil a quarter, and him a quarter, and you'd keep a quarter. Well, next week or 10 days, somebody else would kill one, do the same thing. They had no refrigerators and no freezers there to keep it.
How'd you keep up with your cattle? I mean, how'd you know it from your
Well,
neighbors?
you've been around them so long that you'd learn them.
And Mark,
Yeah, most of them had a mark in their ear.
Most of them had a mark in the ears. And people then was honest. If they found your cow or a strange cow maybe 4 or 5 miles through there, there's no records around. Certain cow there, it's a Durham, got horns and weighed around 800 pounds. Well, if you had lost one like that, you go up there and get your cow. Now, I found a calf one time that belonged to old man Will Barnes. It come from his house in there to Hubbard Schoolhouse Hall. We'd make some whiskey back there. And they lost it and they give up every finder. But Brother Mitchell and Grace was talking to Will Barnes out there at the Furnace Church one night. And he told them about that calf being born. They just hunted it, looked and goat. And Brother was telling me about it. I was over in the Hubbard Schoolhouse Hall making whiskey one day, and the calf walked up there. Well, I sent old man a word where it was at, where a calf that description. He come over and it was his calf. You know, people then wouldn't bother anything that didn't belong to them. You could leave the doors open if you wanted to. If a dog didn't come in, nobody would come in and bother them. Leave anything you was working with, laying out. Nobody didn't bother. I believe there's times over there that you could left your purse out there hanging up on a wire fence on a bush. And anybody passed by there wouldn't bother. I think I've seen that time. There's a good bunch of people, and there's more like a family than any place I've ever been.
everybody sort of looked out for one another.
Yeah.
Somebody got sick.
One got in trouble, all of them in trouble. One got sick, the whole bunch was sick. They'd take care of them. They didn't have to worry about that at all. I think a lot of times about his father's farm. He had a farm on Crooked Creek. And it was the finest land I guess there was. And the land was so good, he didn't have no certain place for a garden. He'd love to have a garden out there this year and over there next year, never fertilize it, and raise the awfulest mess of stuff you ever seen. Cabbage would take the second growth. Raise the awfulest tomatoes, turnips, and beans, just raise them there for the glory. I've seen the beans there that ride corn stalks down.
Land was just rich, and you didn't have to have.
Ground was rich. And back then, they didn't know what a sack of fertilizer was. Well, I don't guess they ever seen one. I guess my daddy lived and died, and yours did too. I never seen a sack of fertilizer.
Thank you, Mr. Woodruff.
Or you will have to know just how remote the area of which he refers to is to the surrounding area. Bounded on one side by the Tennessee River and on the other side by the Cumberland, it was isolated from the surrounding culture both physically and economically. Some geologists believe the region was once a part of the Gulf of Mexico, and that the region gradually rose, causing the Gulf to recede southwest. The soil is very rocky, the terrain rugged, and generally unsuited for intensive farming. When Mr. Woodruff speaks of the fairies' part in the life of the area, you can understand why, since most of the access was by water. And The first ferries across to the area was established in July 1798. This was across the Cumberland. The ferry charges was at that time 4 1/2 pence per horse and man, 9 pence for man and pack horse, 4 1/2 pence for a man and led horse. The court also required the ferry boat to be 16 feet long and 7 feet wide. When Mr. Woodruff speaks of the moonshine making there, you can also understand why, because of the poor farming conditions, the abundance of good spring water, the need for local market for their grain, and a plentiful supply of white oak for barrel stays. This, together with the inaccessibility of contact with the outside, the people were prone to use this method of livelihood. The area under discussion has now been converted into an outdoor recreation, conservation, and educational center by the TVA. It contains 170,000 acres and has 300 miles of shoreline between Lake Barkley and Kentucky Lake. The prolific forest that abounded between the rivers has always been an important economic asset to the region. The tie-making industry will be the next topic under discussion with Mr. Woodruff.
Yeah, I've made several ties. Back whenever my kids were little, well, work was awful bad. And I had to make a whole lot of ties to get by.
Does it take certain kind of trees for ties, or can it be
Ordinarily no. But now sometimes some companies buy hardwood ties and we'll buy softwood. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they'll buy hardwood and softwood.
Back in those days, there were not any railroads around here, were there?
Grand Rivers.
Grand
But they
Rivers.
didn't put no ties in there. They put ties in on the river. And whenever they get the yards filled up, well, towboats would come in there and board them out.
Mm-hmm.
I've hauled a whole lot of ties out of the woods. Back in that day and time, if you didn't have a wagon team and a broadaxe, well, you didn't stand much hack.
Were most of the houses back in those days made out of logs, or?
A whole lot of them was made out of logs. And there's a lot of them made out of logs that you couldn't tell by looking at that make them out of logs and weatherboard the outside and seal the inside.
Mm-hmm.
But there's lots of log houses.
Mm-hmm.
Covered with boards, riv out with a trove. Well, it's always been a puzzle to me. You can take a metal roof or a rubber roof, and you get a hole inside your finger to leak.
Mm-hmm.
But you can take a board roof, and they can gap apart that fur before you can count the stars and won't leak in their drop. You ever noticed that?
Yeah.
It don't look reasonable, but it's that way.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in houses that you could look up through the roof and see nearly every star there was up there. A couple of rain, that house wouldn't leak a drop. I'll tell you where there's one out. I don't know if you ever back there where Cleve Watkins used to live? Back in just off Woodruff Bottom? Well, he wasn't.
I don't reckon it was.
Well, Cleve worked back there, and Will Murray lived in there, and Cleve had a blacksmith shop, and I done a little grinding one Saturday. And he lived in a house that you could look up, and you could see stars just any time the stars shine, you could see them.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of rain, that house would be.
What is it?
Boards, a couple of.
There's a log house back in there somewhere or another now. Don't know if that road is above where Bill Hubbard had his honky tonk. You know, they got a road goes in that off the left going up now. Go down there and hit that creek bottom. and turn the right, it's up there on the
Well,
left hand.
that's done away with. No, 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 no. That's Bud Nichols' house.
That's what I figured.
Right on the head of Jamoma's Creek.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you where there's another one at.
I found that in deer hunting.
There's another one there, just across the country a little piece to the left of the Crossroad Baptist Church. It's the original Andy Wells house. Logs in there was that big around. They got a few down. Not thicker than that, but they're up there high. Andy Wells built it, and that Miss Cullum that lived out there bought it and moved it over there to her place and put it back up. And it's just left there for people to look at.
What they put between the logs to chink it up?
Mortar. They had chinking. Blocks cut about that long, and this end of that and left on top of that, and another over left on top of that. And they had a trail, and had some stuff they called pointing back then. It was mixed up out of lime and this, that, and the other. And as people could lay them blocks in there and chink and dub them to where that will keep the air out. Make a smooth job of it.
And make fireplaces, what they make the fireplaces out
A
of.
lot of them made them out of rock. Then some of them made them out of brick. And I've been in one house of a stick and clay chimney. My uncle lived it. My Uncle Jim Woodruff lived on Smith Creek on a company. And he lived in the house, had a stick and clay chimney. Sticks is about 1 by 2, and that long, and they would just put up there in cribs like this. And they take mud and cloud and muddy them on both sides. Ordinarily, they'd burn them things and be near like a brick.
Did they cook in those fireplaces?
No,
or
they just use that for heat. Well, the women a lot of times would cook beans or turnips or anything like that. It had an arch iron over the front. They'd hang a wire and a hook down there and just hang them on that and just go ahead cooking.
iron
Back
pots
then,
and stuff?
back then they cooked beans for most all day. I've seen women before they ever, by the time they get through with the breakfast, put on a pot of beans, and they'd be ready for supper. It'd be good too.
Put a big hunk of pork in that. And
About as big as little bigger than your fist. Yeah, that's
sounds good to me.
Well, that's good too. Us kids used to roast sweet potatoes and ashes back then. Roast eggs and ashes.
Eggs.
That tasted good. Me and my younger sister used to have deadfalls. We catch snowbirds and cook them. Kid one cooked me about a bite of it. It wouldn't be no count, but we'd eat it.
Burned on the outside, raw in the middle.
And you pull the ashes out and cover the
We used to fry them snowbirds in a shovel.
in a shovel.
Yeah. Well, a dog wouldn't hardly eat them, but us kids eat them.
I never heard of that, but
Well, whenever my mother would sift, see, back then you had to sift all your meal. When you went to mill, you brought it back, bran, meal, and all. Well, she sift that out. We'd bum her out of that bran and put some deadfall out there. We'd sprinkle that bran around in under there, and we'd watch it. Whenever it got as many under there as we thought we'd get, we'd pull the trigger. Go out there and pick the birds up and skin them. Some of them be as old as we were. Tough. We'd skin them, and dress them up. Sprinkle a little salt on them, get a shovel, put out there and parch them, sit there and eat them. They're good.
so you'd have just whatever kind of animal you could catch or or whatever you could shoot, or
Whatever you get.
or whatever was
That one
in the
from
garden.
rabbit, squirrel, or on bigger, it didn't make a difference.
Did your mother can things in those days?
Oh, you can most everything, or just about everything we use candy. People back then had to. She has been about canning all kinds of fruit, plums, apples, peaches, and berries, and then she done a whole lot of drying too. And so saved her garden seed from one year to the other, didn't have to buy them.
How'd you go about drying fruit?
Well, she'd would peel apples to dry them, but didn't peel the peaches. Would dry freestone peaches and just lay them out in the sun.
On a piece of tin or something like that?
Well, we didn't have any tin. We just put them on plank or boards.
I see.
And all night, lay them in, then wait till the dew got off the next morning, put them back out, and just let them stay there till they dried to where they could put them in a sack and they'd eat. And I believe them was the best pies I ever eat, them apple pies.
I like dried apple pies myself.
Well, she used to make half moon pies out of dried apples. We should get them done a long time. They'll make us right through the kitchen, take me a couple, and here I'd go. they wouldn't last very long. They'd come back by and make another trip in there.
So your mother stayed busy most of the time, I guess.
The whole family stayed busy then. And it wasn't only one family, it was all family. They all had to be on the move. People was more or less on equal than they are now.
They helped each other more, knew that.
Was a lot of walking work. You had something to do, come in the afternoon and go help another boys on the air today.
Did your mother quilt in the winter time?
Yeah.
Have quiltings and the
She
neighbor ladies
done
come
all-
in?
A lot of times, neighbor women would come in and swap up. Come in, they could take a quilt, they could quilt a quilt, get 3 or 4 on that quilt a day. She had a steeple that drove up here in the ceiling. The string had quilting frames. And them quilting frames, there's 4 of them, one on each side, one on each end. They had holes in them. And as you quilted, you would roll up and stick spike nails through that hole. And they'd, that's the way they done it. The next day or two, she'd go over to a neighbor's house and they'd quilt her a quilt.
So that was the way the women got together to socialize and visit one another over the quilting.
Yeah.
Did you have to sleep under several of those quilts in the wintertime?
Yes, you did.